Right now, we have about, I think, almost 20 criminal cases related to the 2020 election.
Out of 4 million votes.
Yeah, no, I'm talking in facts, John. But the reality is there are millions of people, not only in Arizona, but people throughout this country that think the election is stolen.
There's people that believe in angels, but that doesn't mean you launch an investigation that angels changed ballots.
That's Jon Stewart. He's talking with Arizona's Attorney General Mike Bronovich. And he was talking about, again, the 2020 presidential elections. And the beef here, but you're gonna find out from Bronovich is Donald Trump wasn't very happy about his handling of pushing through his election lies as far as Arizona goes. In fact, he said he did it badly with those investigations that had countless court appearances that did not end in Donald Trump's favor. So this is some of the criticism that he did give him, and it actually cost him his Senate bid, Bronovich's, because Donald Trump likes to sabotage people that do everything that he tells them to do. Here's some details here. Trump wrote that Bronovich, quote, was given massive information on the fraud and so-called irregularities that took place in the 2020 presidential election. By the way, there is no evidence of mass fraud in the 2020 election results. That's what in Maricopa County or elsewhere. That's just the factual part about this. Continued on. Rather than go after the people that committed these election crimes, it looks like he's just going to kick the can down the road and stay in the middle path of non-controversy, is what Trump said, destroying his chances. So Bronovich learned his lesson as he's sitting down with Jon Stewart. He tried to backpedal a little bit on those other stances, but you now see where he's trying not to really answer that question anymore because, hey bro, I've been burned already. Let's watch more because Jon Stewart did confront him about his new stances.
A bit of a tautology when you have a former president spreading rumors to his supporters. For instance, Trump can say 74,000 mail-in ballots received that were never mailed, magically appearing ballots. 168,000 fraudulent ballots.
And then next thing you know, people are like, well, Bronovich needs to do something about it. And then it was like a hot mess.
But you've responded by doing things about it.
What I've done
said you're still investigating.
We've run a lot of the stuff to ground.
And when you get it to ground, will you come out and say, Donald J. Trump is wrong? The election in Arizona was fair, not stolen, and not fraudulent.
I've always been a straight shooter, and once all the facts and evidence are John.
You have to point out when they're being ridiculous like this. So this is what I've always said: ask the questions and ask them what the end game is. So if he did right there. After you go through all these investigations, will you then come to the conclusion that we find? Because the investigations there just to say we're investigating, and then afterwards say what you want to say instead. You have to make them say the final part about this, which then leads to many times laughter. Because it's nonsense. It is every time. Instead of just telling them that it's nonsense, show that it's nonsense. Jon Stewart again continued on down this and actually got him to admit, barely, kind of, sorta, that the election actually was not stolen somehow, but it still took like he was pulling teeth. Watch this one more.
That's the point of the law.
Yeah, it is.
The law is that you have facts and you have fiction.
Right.
The fact is the election in Arizona was well run, not fraudulent, and not stolen from Donald Trump, according to even your investigation.
I have never said.
Why is it so hard to just say yes to that? So why can't you say the election in 2020 was not stolen or fraudulent?
I will tell you this, as I said.
This is blowing my mind.
Not blowing my mind. Again, the problem with Jon Stewart there is he went through this whole back and forth with this guy. So Sharon, how many people does this really convince? What is the point of this outside of proving to the people who know this guy's a liar versus the people who don't care?
And see, that's the rub, because I go back and forth. It's kind of like, why are people still sitting down with Kanye? What is the reasoning there? It's just not valid. It's disqualifying in and of itself to sit down opposite someone like this. I think my first question would be, one of them's a lawyer, okay? One of them is, okay. But Jon Stewart methodically going through this, and because of who he is, I think he was given some grace and he wasn't talked over, but just the body language alone tells you this is a circular interview. It's not going anywhere. It's not going to go anywhere, and it's not going to convince anyone. And if it does convince him and he comes out and says one thing, well, then you have Carrie Lake over there who's, using fake bombs and drones to show you that this is an invasion. So no, I don't think it convinces anybody. You're going to believe what you believe.
Is it worth doing this stuff? Because this is the type of stuff that I won't do it in interview form because again, or even debates, things like that don't make a lot of sense to me because they look like WWE events. I've been to Politicon a couple times, and every time these debates go, it's the WWE crowd of one supporter versus the WWE crowd of the other. And every time a point is made, it's like cheering like a touchdown was just scored. No one's actually listening to the back and forth and to determine, hey, this other person might be wrong. Maybe I should rethink my approach. That would be the point of a debate or even a conversation or an interview like this. Does it change that many minds? I hope so. We like to think so. But one thing is on full display. They don't believe what they're saying. Because the answer to that question was, why can't you say that the election was not stolen? If he was honest, he'd say, because Donald Trump will kill me politically.
Right, that's what it is. But I also think that we can do something in the media, and it might start with just asking different questions. You know, if I sat opposite Herschel Walker, I might not ask him about the check or if he paid for the abortion, but I might ask him, why do you think your son is so angry? Why do you think he's so angry? And I think you might gain some insight into who he is, if you need more, as a man, as a father, or lack thereof. I think that could tell voters a lot more. I think sometimes it is in the questions you're asking. He was never going to admit that there was no election fraud that was meaningful. He was never going to admit that. Maybe there's a better question.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why lies are harmful is because they sound like the truth at the time that they're being said. So if Herschel Walker's gonna lie about it, he's gonna lie about it. I do like that approach. We should get you in front of Herschel Walker. Let's try and make that happen. Do you think you'd agree?
You know what, I hope so. Okay, I'll get him to sign a football and then, well, listen, I think Herschel Walker, and that's another one where you talk about the low expectations, right? You know, just like in the Fetterman and Oz debate, they dumbed this thing down with Herschel Walker so much so that I think it even stunned, Raphael Warnock. He was caught with his mouth open a few times. It was a disappointing performance for him, okay? And I don't know what you do, because if you go hard in the paint, it's as if you are making a mockery of somebody who can't hold their own.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to do.
And then there's the sympathy vote because well, my guy, he get his ass kicked around like that. No way, I'm voting for him. Okay, fine.
That part.
Yes.